Hello everyone, this is Kathy Kuntz at Cool Choices. It's the top of the hour, so I think we'll get started. I'm delighted you could join me today to talk about the coalition between sustainability teams and human resources to accelerate efforts inside organizations. Just as a tiny bit of background, Cool Choices is a nonprofit. We're located in Wisconsin. We partner with businesses, local units of government, and whole communities to accelerate sustainable practices within those communities. Our whole focus is really on inspiring behavior changes at the individual, business, and community level. And we use an online platform to do that, essentially a gamified system where people sign up, they join teams with their colleagues, and they get points for the sustainable things they do over the course of 6 to 8 weeks. And through that process, there are kind of multiple benefits. So essentially, we're making it fun, social, and easy to make more sustainable practices at work and home, and that yields savings for the organization, reductions in energy use, water, landfill, while it also increases employee engagement and ultimately increases profitability. And today I really want to talk about that kind of intersection between those two things, the intersection between the sustainability group and the employee engagement side of this. And it probably makes sense to start with a definition. So when we talk about employee engagement, this isn't job satisfaction, it's really bigger than that. Talking about an employee's emotional commitment to an organization. So certainly in that is the sense that I have that my organization values me, but there's also a piece that's about me being committed to the goals of the organization, me being willing to go above and beyond for the organization, me feeling like my ideas are valued here. So there's this whole array of kind of emotional things wrapped up in employee engagement. And this is a pretty hot topic for people in the human resource field because there's really good data showing that high levels of employee engagement correlate to increased profitability. So the best research on this is probably the work that Gallup does annually. So Gallup does a lot of work with companies measuring employee engagement, and they do some meta-analysis where they compare employee engagement scores from thousands of organizations, and then they look at how high levels of employee engagement correlate to other factors like profitability, productivity, safety, all sorts of pieces that can affect that. And it's pretty clear. I think the number that always sticks in my head is companies in the top quartile of employee engagement rates are 21% more profitable than those in the bottom quartile. So a pretty compelling reason to pay attention to employee engagement from the HR side. The other reason HR folks are paying attention to this is because our current employee engagement scores in the US and really globally are dismal. And you know, lots of folks think this has to do still with the recession in the sense that people are maybe staying in jobs they're not happy in because it seems too risky to go out there and find something else. In any case, almost every data point you look at is somewhere in this range of 7 of 10 employees are not engaged in their work. And given how that correlates to productivity and profitability, that is estimated to cost our economy $500 billion a year that we've got those levels of engagement. And so this is a big deal for folks in human resources, and really increasingly it's a big deal for people in the C-suite. I was struck the other week by this quote I saw from Mark Zuckerberg. So the CEO of Facebook is talking about how Facebook is feeling pressure that the people they're trying to hire really want a purpose-driven company to work for, and they're not sure that Facebook sort of is engaging enough, if you will. And I mean, when I read this, I thought, gosh, think about all the companies who are doing regular things that are making widgets. If Facebook is struggling to attract workers to have sufficient levels of engagement, that really says there's a big challenge out there. Now, what's noteworthy about this is I saw the other day a statistic that the company with the third highest level of followers on LinkedIn, so people who are interested in the company, is Unilever. And that's after, I think, Apple and Google are the first two. So you've got kind of the cool tech companies, and the third company there is Unilever, that makes personal care products and tea bags and stuff that's not terribly sexy. But Unilever has a tremendous reputation as a company with a really strong commitment to sustainability, to being a solution in the world, and it, I think, speaks to this intersection we're going to talk about. Because indeed, particularly when you're talking about millennials, offering them an opportunity to be part of sustainability efforts is a really fast track to engagement. 82% of millennials in one study said they look for opportunities to help their company be more sustainable. So these folks who aren't engaged are really hungry to be engaged around sustainability. It's this huge opportunity on the HR side that sometimes HR folks aren't completely aware of. But so that's really the angle for HR, is that, look, this is an opportunity to really engage these folks, and engaging them will help with recruitment, it will help with retention. So there's a real appeal there for the HR. I think for folks on the phone, the appeal for the sustainability folks is maybe a little bit more apparent to you. Most of the green teams and sustainability professionals I talk to are always feeling a bit of pressure about where's that next round of savings going to come from. As you implement projects, as you hit this year's goal to reduce energy intensity by 3% or to reduce water used by some particular percentage, it becomes more challenging to hit next year's goals. And increasingly, as companies are looking at this, they're seeing that all employees and human behavior is a piece of what has to be addressed next. You sort of run out of the easy lighting projects and you need to do things that are more complicated. I'll give you a couple of data points about this that are just illustrative. So this is total electric usage of commercial buildings in the United States. This is from the Energy Information Agency, and you're looking at yearly totals, so quadrillion BTUs per year. And when you look at, say, the HVAC piece of this, you see how essentially we're projecting that there'll be more buildings in 2035 than there were in 95, so there's a slight uptick in total electric usage for HVAC. Lighting is pretty flat because we had, by 2015, the introduction of LEDs, and we've sort of reduced the amount of electricity we need for lighting, even as there are more buildings. The story here, though, obviously, is this story. It's the story of plug load. So as entities are thinking about the future and thinking about zero energy commercial buildings, the reality is the piece that's a real challenge is plug load. This reflects the fact that increasingly we've got at every desk 2 26-inch monitors, a printer, maybe a coffee maker, a mini fridge, all kinds of other electronic devices plugged in. You've got this growing electric usage at every desk, in every office, in every cubicle. And really, this isn't a load that your facility manager is going to be able to address very easily. This is going to require engagement the entire workforce. And there's a similar story on the industrial side for manufacturing companies. So a lot of utilities around the country are implementing strategic energy management programs for industrial customers, and this is kind of a process engineering way to think about saving energy. Instead of replacing one motor at a time, it's sort of stepping back and thinking about the whole system and reducing usage in more significant ways. One of the energy efficiency implementing companies out there who's done a lot of work around strategic energy management did a meta-analysis. So they looked at hundreds of projects they'd completed for manufacturers across the country, and they tried to figure out what correlated to higher than average energy savings, and one of the things that correlated was high levels of employee engagement, where firms engaged everyone in the process of reducing energy. The savings were almost double what they were when it was just some of us are involved, other people heard about it in the newsletter, that's it. So there's for the sustainability teams, there's also this pretty compelling case that increasing employee engagement can unlock additional savings. And these are both energy examples, but the same would hold true for waste, for water, certainly for carbon emissions. And so you've got this perfect combination. You've got this opportunity to get people involved in what you're doing on sustainability, generate new ideas, new momentum, unlock new savings, while simultaneously increasing employee engagement and delivering substantial benefits on the HR side in terms of increased retention, satisfaction, productivity, and ultimately profitability there. So I want to just talk a little bit about what it takes to really make that happen, because I think in theory it's, oh yeah, we should collaborate on this. Let's collaborate. And too often that becomes a kind of paper collaboration versus really thinking about how both those entities bring their strengths to the table. Like this image for collaboration, because I think really in this case there is distinct things that each department needs to bring to the table. HR has inside knowledge about where opinion leaders are in the organization, people who could be leveraged as part of the engagement efforts. HR knows what kind of communications work with employees, what they read, what they don't read, they've got kind of a treasure trove of how to get messages out to the population. The sustainability folks know what that content should be. So, for example, if you're a healthcare organization, potentially the most important thing you want employees to do has to do with waste and recycling, because every employee affects how expensive your medical waste is, how much is going to recycling, which is not a cost kind of thing. But HR team might not realize that's the opportunity in that organization. So thinking about how does the sustainability team really help shape the content of, so what do we want people engaged around? Where's the biggest bang for the buck here? And then the HR really shaping, what does that message look like, and how is it delivered to people in our organization so that it's really beneficial? And ideally, when you've got that collaboration, you end up with situations like the one we saw. These are, I think, quotes from West Liberty Foods. So you've got employees who are super excited about working for an organization that walks the talk, who are bragging to their friends about this amazing place they work. And at the same time, you've got a sustainability team there that's taking hundreds of suggestions those employees made during the Cool Choices program and implementing them and sharing back with employees. We implemented Barbara's idea to do XYZ in the warehouse, and these are the savings we're seeing. Jim's idea about landscaping is going to yield this benefit. There's this amazing kind of symbiosis that happens when you really get those two parts working together. And the last part of the symbiosis, which is super important and sometimes we forget, is to aggregate the benefits. Too often when we think about engaging employees around sustainability, we just count one set of benefits, but we really need to count all of the benefits. So there are the human resources benefits. At Cool Choices, we measure pre and post program implementation, things like job satisfaction and employee engagement. So we can say to an organization, the participants in this program reported that their level of engagement went up X%. Typically, the HR team has a way to quantify that in terms of that this is our estimate on how that will affect retention. They know what it costs to replace an employee in their organization, and they can monetize that. And really, we want them to monetize that in the same way that the sustainability team monetizes when we say, oh, you got these suggestions that you're implementing that will save you this, you employees adopted these new practices which reduce your waste by this, which reduce your electric usage by Y. You know, you've got those tangible benefits from the sustainability initiatives, but you really want to couple them with the human resource benefits to get the full advantage, and to be able to articulate to leadership all of the ways engaging employees increases profitability. As I say this, I always think about a manufacturer we worked with some number of years ago that the very first time I met their energy manager, he was speaking at a conference, and he was talking about how they'd installed several wind turbines at their corporate headquarters, and after the turbines went live, HR came to him and said, this is really weird. We're getting more applications for openings than we've ever gotten before. And other sources were telling him that company employees were bragging in the community about the cool organization they worked for. And his conclusion was that as part of his cost-benefit analysis for the project, his final cost-benefit analysis, he added a worksheet to his workbook that was the HR benefits of his project. And he, with HR, estimated that, you know, in addition to the wind generation and the kind of the electric payback from these turbines, he was also having a positive impact on recruitment and retention that needed to be part of everyone's thinking about this. And I think that is just a really powerful model to think about how do you articulate all of the benefits of this? How do you make sure you don't get stuck only counting the things that are directly in your silo, but count the bigger, more aggregate things that can be yielded from an employee engagement initiative. And with that, I want to open things up to questions, because it's always more fun to talk about your questions. So on the side panel there, you've got the little GoToWebinar box that if it's closed, you can hit the orange arrow to make it open up. And then there'll be a box there where you can type a question that I will do my best to address for you. So we'll give folks a second there. So someone's saying, makes sense to me, but how do I get HR interested? And I think it's a great question, because I think we've done some speaking at HR conferences, and it's very rare that HR professionals are already engaged with sustainability beyond kind of knowing it's happening in their organization. So thinking about how do you broach this with them, as an opportunity. And certainly, if you're in an organization where there are management level conversations about recruitment challenges, about retention challenges, I think pulling out some of the data I'm talking about is a powerful thing, saying that, Unilever has great success attracting employees because they talk about their commitment to sustainability, and people are energized and engaged around that. How do we do that with our own internal commitment? I think certainly, and I'm happy to share more of those offline. If you think about the stories that we could share about particular HR victories. Again, I think about another manufacturing setting where HR was pretty involved in the rollout of the Cool Choices program. And one of the stories the HR team shared with us afterwards is that one of the facilities, there was a staff person who was a relatively recent hire and had a rocky transition into the organization. And the HR team was beginning to think that the individual wasn't going to be successful there. They'd done some coaching, and it just didn't seem like things were working. And in the midst of that, our Cool Choices program launched. Our philosophy on everything is to catch people doing the right things and celebrate the heck out of it so that they want to do more right things. And for this HR professional, that was really a lightning bolt. She saw very clearly how this individual responded to that positive reinforcement and became more successful in their position. So even though we were congratulating him probably for carpooling to work versus what he was doing on the factory floor, getting some positive reinforcement was a really powerful thing and helped him adjust. And at the end of the Cool Choices program, the HR staff said to us, he's turning out to be a terrific employee. We're really glad we had this opportunity to give him some success and really think differently about how we do that. And, for most organizations, the cost of an employee not working out and having to rehire is thousands of dollars. That's a benefit for folks to think about in the course of this. How do you realize those benefits? So I think really part of it with HR is helping them think about, well, so what if collaborating we could deliver these kind of benefits to you? How could that help us move forward as an organization? How does that make us more competitive out there in that very competitive realm of trying to attract and retain the best talent, particularly as you're looking forward to the millennials? So I think that's sort of the key to getting HR folks interested in this. There's also maybe, I'm trying to think if I know of a good one. I feel like here and there are some HR folks who there might be talks online or something. Let me think about that a little. I will circle back to you offline if I come up with a good source. Nothing is coming to me right away, but I might later have one. What about other questions? A question about whether having HR and green teams work together works better in some organizations than others. And I have to say, I think no. I think, so we've seen it work very well in manufacturing settings where you had kind of a very technical engineering green team who leveraged the skills of an HR team to really maximize their outreach. and then again, the engineers figuring out what they really wanted people to do as part of that engagement. I've also seen it work really well in healthcare, where sometimes we see the green team's sort of natural ally being the wellness coordinator inside the HR team. There are, after all, any number of sustainable practices that also promote wellness. Taking the stairs, not the elevator. Walking versus driving kinds of things. There are things that can be, and that can be a good starting point. And we've seen that work in local governments, in hospital settings. I think really that coalition can be pretty effective in an awful lot of settings. So I don't think that there's a place where it doesn't work. If it seems really hard, just maybe there's a different person in your HR team to pitch the idea to kind of get buy-in somewhere and then expand to others if it seems like you're really hitting a brick wall with one person. Because sometimes I think it can be surprising to folks how motivating it is for people to get to be part of the solution for their organization around reducing waste, saving energy. Very often our partners are surprised at how into it people got. And I think particularly for the HR team, sometimes there's a little bit of a surprise there, that it just doesn't seem plausible that people will be excited about that. But indeed, being part of the solution is highly correlated with feeling valued. That whole piece of how you motivate folks to be part of the solution. I am not seeing more questions. I could probably go on for a long time, but respecting everybody's time, you've got my email. If you've got other questions, feel free to reach out to me. Oh wait, sorry, I just had a question as I was starting to, what other types of initiatives like carpooling have you done that have benefited from HR support? So really I would say everything benefits from HR support, in the sense that human resources teams are usually they're usually driving some of the internal employee communications, and so whatever you're trying to do, if you're trying to solicit employee ideas about more ways you could reduce energy in your facility, having HR involved in that initiative up front, having them help think through how are you going to recognize people, what are you going to do to make that magical, can be really powerful. Certainly things like carpooling, definitely, but internal operations, how people shut things off, how people recognize each other. So HR is a good ally if, today we're in an environment where everyone is carrying a camera in their pocket. Everyone on your team has the capacity to take a picture of someone else doing the right thing and share it more broadly. And HR can be a really good conduit for that. Again, they're probably operating some employee intranet of some sort where those photos could be posted. They've got their fingers in a lot of communications things that the typical green team does not always have access to. And by making them your collaborator, you have them do that communications piece and that outreach to the employees, while you're really, as the technical experts, thinking about what's the most valuable thing employees can deliver back to us. So hopefully that answered that. Again, I'm going to close with that. Thanks everyone for joining us. You've got my email. You will get a copy of the recording too if you need to share it with someone. Thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you again on another webinar. Bye.